The Tolkien Road, Episode 44, The Silmarillion, Chapter 13, of the Return of the Noldor. Alright, go ahead. The Tolkien Road, 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 the Tolk Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, a long walk through the works and philosophy of J.R.R. Tolkien. On this episode, we continue our discussion of the Silmarillion with Chapter 13, of the Return of the Noldor. In this chapter, the Noldor arrive in the north of Beleriand after their mass exodus from Valinor, only to be greeted by the armies of Morgoth. A lot happens in this chapter, and that means there's a ton to talk about. I hope you enjoy our discussion. And hey, if you haven't already, how about leaving the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? Let the world know how awesome we are. We won't mind. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tolkien Road. It's John here. Greta, what's shaking?
Not much, John. Shaking with you.
Not much shaking with me. What's shaking with you?
Yeah, not much.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, just, stoked to be doing another Tolkien Road podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just chilling.
Yeah. You're supposed to ask me back what's shaking with me again, and we were supposed to keep on going and be like, not much, what's shaking with you?
I was thinking that was going to be super annoying and get old real quick, so I thought I'd nip it in the bud.
You're no fun.
I know.
No fun.
I know. Sorry. Maybe you should come up with better games.
Try to have a little fun. Just, every once in a while on the Tolkien Road. And
mm-hmm. Well, I'm just trying to protect our listeners' sanity. That's all.
Yes.
You're welcome, guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Always looking out for others. That's me.
Good job, Greta.
Thanks.
Well done.
Patting myself on the back.
Yeah, so, anyway, what's shaking?
Yeah. I can tell you what's shaking.
What?
That haiku music is pretty shaken. It at least makes me want to shake.
Mm. Cool.
What do you think about that?
That's fine. Oh, you're trying to get us into haiku.
I am.
Trying to get us right in.
I am.
Well, so we haven't even said what we're talking about yet.
Well, haiku is a great way to introduce our topic.
That's true.
And it's a long chapter. I'm just trying to, keep the ball rolling.
I feel like you're trying to rush through this.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
So shoot me.
Well. Okay.
All right, I'll put the brakes on. You do your thing. Just don't ask me what's shaking again.
Well, I wanted to. Man, I should let you host. I think that hosting thing last time got to your head.
I think I did a pretty good job, if I do say so myself.
Well, I wanted to share a note that came through on the website a little while back.
Okay. I love notes from the website.
Yeah, this one was pretty cool. It was, where is it? Here we go. This one is from a gentleman, I assume a gentleman, named Trevor Brierly, although there's an N at the in Trevor Brierly.
Okay.
So, yeah, Trevor, I'm used to that being a guy's name, so assume we're dealing with a gentleman here. Hello, I've been enjoying your posts, particularly the ones on Mythopoeia. In your About True Myths page, you mentioned you were trying to put together the unified theory of Tolkien. I have something which may be useful to you in that regard if you haven't already seen it. Tolkien published Smith of Wootton Major in 1967, which is a short story we haven't read yet.
Okay.
Towards the end of his life. What is less known is that at the same time he wrote an essay on Smith, which contains one of the most profound things he ever said. The last paragraph of the essay is as follows. More strongly, fairy represents love. That is, a love and respect for all things, inanimate and animate, an unpossessive love of them as other. This love will produce both ruth and delight. And actually, that's an interesting use. I'm just pause because I'd never heard ruth used in that way, but apparently ruth is compassion.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Things. So when you say someone's ruthless, you're saying they're compassionate.
Oh, they're compassionless.
Right?
Okay, so does the name Ruth mean compassion? I guess it must.
It's not, yeah, something like that, yeah. Things seen in its light will be respected, and they will also appear delightful, beautiful, wonderful, even glorious. Fairy might be said indeed to represent imagination, without definition, because taking in all the definitions of this word: aesthetic, exploratory and receptive, and artistic, inventive, dynamic, subcreative. This compound of awareness of a limitless world outside our domestic parish, a love and ruth and admiration for the things in it, and a desire for wonder, marvel, both perceived and conceived, this fairy is as necessary for the health and complete functioning of the human as is the sunlight for physical life. Sunlight is distinguished from the soil, though it in fact permeates and modifies even that. So that's the end of the quote from Tolkien. This is the last, and then Trevor begins again. This is the last part of the last paragraph of that essay he wrote in 1966 to go with the publication of Smith of Wootton Major. The essay was unpublished until it was included in the 2005 version of Smith of Wootton Major, edited by Verlyn Flieger. It may be the last thing of an academic nature that he wrote. The chronology volume of the J.R.R. Tolkien Companion and Guide does not record that he wrote anything of an academic nature after that, not counting letters and work on his Legendarium. Whether or not it is his last academic writing, I believe this paragraph is very significant for understanding Tolkien, and sums up beautifully his view of fairy and its importance. It is something of a bookend, a mature view written after a long life spent thinking about and writing about fairy, as well as contributing to our vision of fairy through his fiction, poetry, and academic work. Tolkien makes several interesting statements or claims about fairy in this quote. First, he claims that fairy, as love and respect for all things, has an effect on those who partake of it. Two kinds of effect, actually. One of those is aesthetic, producing delight, beauty, wonder, and glory. The other is actually ethical, producing ruth, compassion, and respect for things seen in its light. Second, he claims that fairy is closely associated with imagination. For Tolkien, imagination seems to be a very broad or wide concept. He uses a long string of terms to describe aspects of it: aesthetic, exploratory and receptive, and artistic, inventive, dynamic, subcreative. Third, Tolkien makes the astounding claim that this fairy is as necessary for the health and complete functioning of the human as is the sunlight for physical life. The implication is clear. Humans need fairy and what it represents: imagination, creativity, compassion, delight, wonder, as much as any of our physical needs. What this means is that we need these things to be complete human beings. Therefore, the writer, poet, artist, creative person is not an optional member of society. Their work, partaking of fairy, sourced from fairy, is just as important as that of any other productive member of society. Tolkien had a very high view of fairy. For him, fairy meant more than just the place where fairies live, or the setting of fairy stories, but rather that realm, sometimes separate from our world, sometimes coterminous, where wonder, awe, delight, ruth, beauty, even glory are found. Fairy not only is, but also can affect us, producing compassion, delight, respect, imagination, and creativity. And then he signs his name at the end, Trevor Brierly. So I guess that he goes by Trevor.
Yes, yeah. That's lovely.
Yeah, so Trevor, if you're listening, thank you for that.
Yes,
for leaving
thank
that
you.
comment. I've never actually read that essay, so and come to think of it, I'm not sure that I've ever actually read Smith of Wootton Major in its entirety. So I know we've done a few Tolkien short stories on here. Maybe we need to at some point take a break and do Smith of Wootton Major.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. I am serious about the whole idea of the unified theory of Tolkien. I use that term a little bit tongue in cheek because it's kind of a, there's the whole. I think it was an Einsteinian notion of wanting to put together kind of a unified theory of everything, and in like a physics kind of term, and that's sort of what I hope to do over a long run with kind of getting into Tolkien and connecting all of the different aspects of his thought together into one place so that you can really see how all of this was very connected in his head. That's what I get when I read Tolkien, is the connectedness of all of his unique outlook on life. And there is perhaps no better summation of all of that connectedness than The Lord of the Rings itself. But maybe, what I maybe hope to do is be able to sort of make that a bit more explicit, on the face of it. And that may be a fool's errand. It could be something I'm like, this really doesn't need to be done, but I don't know. I kind of feel like that's something I want to do. And it sounds like Trevor kind of, knows what I'm saying. So
I think y'all may be on the same page.
Yeah. So, all right.
That's cool. That's good stuff. Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. Thanks for reaching out. I really appreciate it, and hope to hear more from you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, yeah. What time is it right now?
Oh, yeah. I was about to tell you, the literal time, but this time is way better. Time. Woo! Do it.
All right. Paper, rock, scissors.
Rocker.
Whoop. All right. Playing another old episode there. It sounded like.
Dang. That was
Tolkien Road episode. What is this? 43 or 44?
Oh my gosh! Really? That high?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've lost track.
I was gonna say it'd be funny if we played an old episode and on this episode of the Tolkien Road, we're going to listen to an old episode. We're going to make fun of ourselves from 20 episodes ago.
That might be kind of fun, actually.
Actually, that might be kind of fun. Kind of fun. Kind of a Mystery Science Theater 3000 sort of thing.
I like that.
Did you ever watch that show?
No.
Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
No. I just thought I'd pretend like I did.
You should say, I don't know what that is.
Wait, is that the show where I had the talking head?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know, very little about
They
it.
would watch really bad old movies.
Okay, and then make fun of them.
And it was basically it was a really goofy premise. It was this guy and a couple of robots were they were exiled to outer space and they had to watch all these bad movies on this exile into outer space. And so he and his two robot buddies would sit there and watch the movies and make fun of them. Yeah.
How long was this show on the air?
A long time. I think it might even still be on the air.
Yeah?
I think they kind of bring it back sometimes. And yeah.
Oh.
Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, the talking head kind of creeped me out, so I never really watched it.
Yeah, well, it was funny. It was a really funny show.
It sounds like it would be funny. So, rock, paper, scissors.
Right. Oh. All right.
Ready?
Count of three. Oh, wait. On shoot, right?
On shoot, yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Ah, dang it! You always win. All right, am I going first, or are you going first?
You go first.
All right, here's mine. Blissful reunion. Enemies, now friends. The cost? Only a right hand.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thanks. I kind of like it, too. Let's hear yours.
Okay. Morgoth besieges Beleriand elves. Brethren clash. Bitter rivals.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I just realized we didn't actually introduce the chapter that we were talking about.
Have we not yet?
No, we haven't.
Well,
so now you guys get to guess.
Fortunately, they all know because they listen to the beginning where I say what chapter it is before we even start doing it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we're doing chapter 13 of the Return of the Noldor. So, this is actually a pretty action-packed chapter. But before we talk too much about it, Josh did leave one.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think we mixed him up by bouncing back and forth because
I figured it had to be something like that because I knew he wouldn't just not send one. You know, I knew he had a good excuse, and that it was most likely our fault about why we didn't have one last time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, hey, by the way, I was just checking my email to find Josh's stuff. It looks like it's Christopher Tolkien's 91st birthday. So, yeah.
Happy
there
birthday.
He is right there.
There he is. He looks a lot like his dad.
He does, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's still alive.
He is, yeah.
That's amazing.
I know.
Wow. Does he live in England?
I believe so. Although, maybe France. I know he has lived in France at one point or another.
Okay. So are all of Tolkien's kids still alive? Because Christopher is his oldest, right?
I think I know Christopher is, and then I believe his daughter, what's her name? Priscilla. Priscilla is his daughter. She's alive as well. And then I'm not sure about Michael, and then I know John. John is deceased.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure about Michael, though. Maybe someone out there knows. I can probably look it up, too. But anyway, I was just pulling up my email to look for Josh's haiku, and I saw that little tweet there from the Tolkien Society.
Nice.
Well,
we didn't even know that when we planned to do our podcast tonight, but that's
right.
pretty awesome.
Here we go. Josh sent us one. Since we didn't get to do one for him last time, he sent us two, so we'll read both of them.
Okay.
All right. The halls denied him, and without body and soul, Fëanor dissolves.
Ooh.
Nice.
Ooh, I liked that.
Yep.
That was I thought one of the coolest parts of the chapter.
Oh, special haiku.
Special haiku. What? Wait, it gets better?
Mm-hmm.
That one was pretty awesome. Oh, man. I don't know if I'll be able to take this one. Might be too awesome for me.
Take now the true path. Follow the song, my brother. The West calls. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think that Josh intended that for my brother, for me, and for my brother. I'm just reading that for the first time now.
Oh, wow.
And he has hashtag rest in peace at the end of it, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. That's really kind of you. Once again, thank you.
Really, really sweet.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, man. I really do appreciate that. Really do appreciate that. Well done.
Mm-hmm. It's lovely.
And somehow I read that and I'm like, I also feel like I'm trying to think, it could possibly be applicable to the chapter. There's just so much that happens in this chapter.
I know. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think.
I'm trying to think if it actually is applicable to the chapter.
Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of brothers.
Yeah.
And
there is, and that's why there is a lot of brotherhood in this chapter.
There is. There's a lot of brotherhood. Yeah, I think it probably could be applicable.
Right.
That's great. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
That was very,
well
very
done.
cool.
Man.
Very cool. Man. Almost out of the water again.
Yes.
At least me. Can't talk for you, but it was great.
Okay. So.
Yep.
Chapter 13.
Chapter 13. Lucky
of the Return
number
of
13.
We got a lot to talk about. There's a lot that happens in this chapter.
There's a lot going on. That is a true story.
Basically, I think you could call this chapter the Chronicles of the Noldor upon their arrival in Beleriand, right? So basically, chapter 10, chapter 9 left off. That was where we took our big break and went to the Lord of the Rings for a little while. Chapter 9 left off with Morgoth having just stolen the Silmaril and fleeing back to Beleriand by going north, being chased by the Noldor. The Noldor did all this bad stuff over in Valinor, over in the Blessed Realm, and then left themselves.
And stuff.
And the kinslaying and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter, it's almost like the kind of the main plot sort of stops there for a little while. And it goes back over to say what's going on in Beleriand, what's been going on in Beleriand, right? So chapter 10 talks about the Sindar, the Grey Elves, who are subjects of Thingol, right?
Right. And Melion, right?
And Melion. And then chapter 11 talks about men. Mm-hmm. Chapter 11 talks about the sun and the moon and the hiding of Valinor.
Right.
Chapter 12 talks about men.
Yes.
The awakening of men. And then finally, we get to chapter 13 where we pick the main action of the return of the Noldor chasing after Morgoth. We pick up with that, right?
Right. So I was confused about why the chapter is called "Of the Return of the Noldor."
Right.
Because, have they been to Beleriand before?
It's because the Noldor Strikes Back was already taken.
That would have made more sense. Because I was like, I think I told you this before. I was very confused by the first page and a half, because I didn't understand. I'm like, where are they returning to? Like, I know they were kicked out of Valinor.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not like they're going back to Valinor. They're going to Beleriand. So
but from the perspective of the Sindar, they're coming back. They're returning, right?
Oh.
And like,
so that's my question.
Thingol,
have the Noldor been in Beleriand before?
Yeah, that's where they all left from when they first
to
went over
make
to
the
the Blessed
journey
Realm,
to
right?
the Blessed Realm. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so now they're coming back to Beleriand.
They are.
Okay.
Yes. After
Got it.
After what might equate to thousands of years in our time.
Okay.
Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's been a long time since Thingol has glimpsed upon the Noldor, and the rest of the Sindar.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we pick up, and immediately they get back, and they've barely even been back a night. They've barely even been back for a bit, and immediately Morgoth attacks.
Yes.
Right. So just so we can kind of understand where we are here.
Oh.
Brought my little Atlas of Middle Earth by Karen Wynne Fonstad out, busting this bad boy out. So we can have a map, because the maps within the Silmarillion itself are sort of woefully unhelpful in a lot of ways. But basically, where do we go? So, here we go. Flight of the Noldor. So they leave, and then they kind of chase Morgoth up this way, and they go all the way into like the far north into the Helcaraxe, right? And then they come back down here, and this is where they enter into Beleriand. So they've traveled a pretty long way, following him,
okay.
right? So they're coming back down in here, and where are the battles? Here we go. There's 5 battles, right? There's 5 battles of Beleriand in the first age. And then the last one that is kind of what ends the first age, all right?
Right.
So the first battle had to do with the Sindar, right? It was in chapter 10 when Morgoth was attacking the Sindar, okay? Before anybody was back, he was the only one there, and he attacks the Sindar. And we talked about that. You can go back and listen to what happened there. Second battle happens now, and this is the battle under the stars, is what it's called, because the moon and the sun have not yet risen. So they're fighting under the stars, but basically the Noldor come back down. They kind of had come over like this, and then they come back down into Beleriand, and here they are in kind of the northwest part of Beleriand, and Morgoth attacks. Okay. And that's where we pick up. All right.
Got it.
Okay.
Yep.
So
can I ask why? Because the chapter about the sun and the moon was like 2 before this.
Yeah.
So are we going back in time?
Kind of. Yeah, we're jumping around, right?
Okay.
And yeah.
So this happens during the time where there was still darkness. There was not the sun or the moon yet.
Right. I think it'd be interesting to talk to Christopher and
that's right. I keep forgetting
about why they organized it in this way.
Okay.
Because it certainly would have been a lot more readable as a story if there wasn't
if things happened chronologically.
Chapters. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
I think they did their best with the material they had, and they probably felt like they couldn't just go and like kind of piecemeal it all together too much, because how far do you do that? And then you're like betraying, the elder Tolkien's vision. But yeah, it is a little confusing.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
So,
well, I'm glad I'm not like a complete doofus for getting a bit confused.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Certainly not the first person to kind of get confused by how it jumps around.
That makes me feel better.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Yep.
So the second battle happens. The forces of Morgoth attack the Noldor there in the north. Mm-hmm. And Fëanor, they have some success, and it says Fëanor in his wrath against the enemy would not halt, but pressed on behind the remnant of the orcs, thinking so to come at Morgoth himself. And he laughed aloud as he wielded his sword, rejoicing that he had dared the wrath of the Valar and the evils of the road, that he might see the hour of his vengeance. Nothing did he know of Angband, or the great strength of defense that Morgoth had so swiftly prepared, but even had he known it would not have deterred him, for he was fey, consumed by the flame of his own wrath. Thus it was that he drew far ahead of the van of his host, and seeing that the servants of Morgoth turned to bay, and there issued from Angband Balrogs to aid them. There upon the confines of Dor Dedaloth, the land of Morgoth, Fëanor was surrounded, with few friends about him. Long he fought on and undismayed, though he was wrapped in fire and wounded with many wounds. But at the last he was smitten to the ground by Gothmog, lord of Balrogs, whom Ecthelion after slew in Gondolin. There he would have perished, had not his sons in that moment come up with force to his aid. And the Balrogs left him and departed to Angband. So he goes. Fëanor is not frightened by the attacks of the forces of Morgoth, and he goes after him, right?
Right. Well, it says that even though the Noldor were outnumbered and they were taken unawares, they were swiftly victorious.
Right.
So it sounds to me like they essentially had won the battle, right? Mm-hmm. So if Fëanor obviously, as usual, is just super full of himself and is like, I'm gonna go finish them off. He didn't have to. Like, they had won, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, he could have just left with his sons and people, and put another line in the win column, right? Yeah. But instead, he's, I think it serves him right, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, there was no reason for him.
Yeah, Fëanor has pretty quickly has become an unsympathetic character. He ceases to be. I think at some point he seems to seem tragic, and he seems to seem more just kind of like, just completely prideful and almost just swallowed up in his own hubris and evil acts. You know. Yep. Of course, this is the same guy who just burned the ships of the other Noldor, so that they couldn't cross. And they would have to make this further long march. Right. Yeah. But he gets away, but then it says that his sons raised up their father and bore him back towards Mithrim. Yep. But as they drew near to Ithel Sirion and were upon the upward path to the pass over the mountains, Fëanor bade them halt, for his wounds were mortal, and he knew that his hour was come. And he cursed the name of Morgoth thrice, and laid it upon his sons to hold to their oath and to avenge their father. Then he died, but he had neither burial nor tomb, for so fiery was his spirit, that as it sped his body fell to ash, and was borne away like smoke. And his likeness has never again appeared in Arda, neither has his spirit left the halls of Mondos. Thus ended the mightiest of the Noldor, of whose deeds came both their greatest renown and their most grievous woe. So...
And that was the subject of Josh's
yes.
first haiku. Yep.
So Fëanor dies.
He dissolves.
Fëanor,
he just poof.
Yeah.
Ceases to be.
Ceases to be. It's interesting. He's the fiery spirit. Remember, that was his name in the first place. Mm-hmm. And his spirit is apparently so fiery that his body just kind of poof goes away. Yep. Right, it dissolves to ash.
Yep. Nothing left. Well, that's a pretty cheap cremation. Huh.
Well, there you go.
Free cremation. Woohoo!
Get
the urn, shovel me.
All right, so that's the end of Fëanor, but it's only the beginning of the fun we're going to have in Beleriand, of the good times that await us in Beleriand. So the party has only just begun. It's like they were just, blown out a candle, and now they're digging into the cake, right? So yeah, next up we have Maedhros. What happens to Maedhros?
Maedhros. Maedhros?
Maedhros, yeah. That's how I say his name. I think that's right.
Even though there's a D in there?
Maedhros, yeah. Well, if you look in the back in the handy-dandy pronunciation guide...
I forgot about the pronunciation.
Let's check this out, yeah, because I can see how people might get tripped up on this. On page 310... Go to page 310.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I didn't realize you were talking
Students,
to me.
310.
310. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Note on pronunciation. You'll look DH, the third consonant down. DH is always used to represent the sound of a voiced soft TH in English. That is the TH in then, not the TH in thin. So it's probably Maedhros would be better.
Then.
Maedhros.
The Maedhros.
Yeah.
Maedhros.
Maedhros.
Okay.
I was saying Maedhros before. That's wrong. It's Maedhros.
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 Like the TH in then.
Then. I never noticed there was a difference. Like, I didn't know we
then
had
and
two
thin.
THs.
Yeah.
I knew we had soft and hard vowels, but I didn't know we had... Anyway.
Yeah, well, that's why Tolkien was a...
Not soft and hard.
Tolkien
what
was
are
a
they,
philologist in New York.
Short?
Yeah.
Jeez, Brenna. So...
You call yourself a speaker of English.
Yeah. Anyways. I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
I can't remember the question you asked me. I'm so embarrassed.
We were just talking about what happens with Maedhros.
Maedhros. Maedhros. Pretty
gruesome.
Yeah, totally gruesome.
Yeah.
So he's like, they're ambushed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then, well, actually, so what happened was they came.
Mm-hmm.
So Morgoth, an army, an embassy came to his son. So a bunch of Morgoth's peeps came to see Fëanor's sons, right? And they are basically like, they said, "Oh, we lost, and let's be friends. We'll even give you Silmaril," right?
Sorry about the whole Silmaril thing, guys. Sorry your dad died.
Sorry I killed your dad.
That part made us feel really bad. We're sorry about that. I know we look just totally demonic, and and we follow the demon lord of everything, but he really feels bad about all this. Can we just let bygones be bygones and put the past behind us?
Yep.
And Fëanor's sons are like, let me think about it. No, I don't think so.
Nope, I don't think so. Yeah.
You better get out of here right now.
This is not going to end well if we listen to them. I don't think we can. They don't look like the most trustworthy folk we've ever encountered.
No.
So yeah, let's not. But Maedhros, the tall, who was the oldest son, so he probably felt like he could throw his weight around a little bit.
Yeah.
Was like, yeah, let's meet with
Wait,
them.
it didn't say he was fat. It just said he was tall.
I didn't say fat. I said the eldest son.
You're talking about throwing his weight around.
Oh, all right. So he thinks he's like, people are going to listen to him because he's the oldest.
Okay.
Dweeb. Can't you throw your weight around even if you're not fat?
Tall.
Can you not?
Huh?
Are you only supposed to use that if people are overweight? The whole throwing your weight around? I was using it symbolically.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, rabbit trail.
Tell it to the judge.
Okay, so Maedhros, the oldest son, says, let's just see. Let's go hear him out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be kind of nice to get that Silmaril back after all. So let's go meet with them. And shock of shocks, they're ambushed, right? So once again, Morgoth's peeps prove themselves untrustworthy.
Yep.
And so all of his company were slain. All of Maedhros and his people were slain, and he is taken prisoner.
Right.
to Angband.
Mm-hmm.
And there...
Man, it's pretty gruesome what happens, right?
Totally gruesome. Yeah. He, hangs him up, right? On a cliff by his hand.
Therefore, Morgoth took Maedhros and hung him from the face of a precipice upon Thingol, and he was caught to the rock by the wrist of his right hand in a band of steel. Yeah. This is a really... So, I found this drawing, and I put it, on my post that I did when I was reading through this earlier this year. But I think this is a really awesome drawing of the whole scene. But, actually, I don't want to... Because there's still more to talk about with that, so I'll show it to you in just a minute.
Okay.
But, Thingol, do you know what Thingol is? Because that might be confusing to you if you're not clear.
I think I looked it up.
Okay.
In the handy dandy glossary.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what it was now off the top of my head.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't look it up, actually. It was Mountains of Tyranny.
Yeah.
Reared by Morgoth above Angband.
Right. So basically, Thingol are these three really tall mountains.
Yeah.
That sort of enclose all of Angband except for the front, I think.
Okay.
Right? I think that's right. You know what? Let's look in the atlas because I think Fonstad has a good picture of it in here.
Of the mountain?
Yes. Oh, here we go.
We found that awful quick.
The layout.
So is it part of Angband? Is it a fortifying...
So, here you go. Right here. This little picture right here. See how there's these three mountains right here?
Yes.
And then it has the Great Gate right here. Angband is kind of underground, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's as you might expect from someone such as Morgoth.
Oh, dang.
What?
Got a flea in my beer. Sorry. That was not part of our discussion.
No.
Oh, that is so disappointing.
Here.
Anyway, okay. Yeah, so so he's hanging.
Yeah.
Maedhros is
he hangs him up.
By his wrist.
Right.
And a band of steel. So he's just hanging, right?
Mm-hmm.
By his arm.
Right.
That sounds extremely painful.
Right. So he's way high up too,
Yep. Way high up.
Now about this time, the rest of the Noldor, led by Fingolfin, right, the other brother of Fëanor, are coming over, and they hear about everything that's going on. And then the sun rises for the first time, flaming in the west, it says.
So now the sun is up.
Right, so now the sun is up. Fingolfin comes over and unfurls his blue and silver banners and blew his horns, and flowers sprang beneath his marching feet, and the ages of the stars were ended. So Fingolfin shows up.
Can I just say how difficult it was to keep all these F names straight? For real.
It is. There's a lot of F names.
I cannot tell you how many times I had to look in the back and try to figure out I was trying to think of what's that word? We use the first letter of a word to remember things. You know what I mean?
Sure.
What is that called? It's called not a monogram.
A mnemonic.
Mnemonic.
Device.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a mnemonic device to try and keep all these guys with F names straight, but I couldn't think of one.
Yeah.
Because my whole mnemonic would just be F.
Right.
So anyway. So they hear about what's going on, right?
Uh-huh.
And they don't seem too concerned. Except Fingolfin.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Fingolfin's the one who is I need to do something about this. Right? I mean, did I read that wrong? Other people just didn't seem too concerned about it.
Well...
They're sucks for him.
Fingolfin is not particularly fond of any of the sons, right? It says Fingolfin held the sons the accomplices of their father.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, then there was peril of strife between the hosts, but grievous as were their losses upon the road. The people of Fingolfin and of Finrod, son of Finarfin, were still more numerous than the followers of Fëanor, and these now withdrew before them, and removed their dwelling to the southern shore, and the lake lay between them. Many of Fëanor's people indeed repented of the burning at Loskar, and were filled with amazement at the valor that had brought their friends whom they had abandoned over the ice of the north. And they would have welcomed them, but they dared not for shame. So things still aren't really good.
Right.
But then you have Fingon, the son of Finarfin, which was the other brother of Fingolfin and Fëanor, right? The half-brother of Fëanor, the brother of Fingolfin. Right. Finarfin stayed behind, right? But Fingon was... Finrod was his son who came representing him. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. Finrod, lots of F names. Finrod is the son of Finarfin.
Right.
He's the guy that leads the Finarfin people. Fingolfin leads the rest of the people.
Right.
Fëanor was the High King because he was the eldest of the sons of Finwë.
Right.
He was the High King of the Noldor.
Right.
Okay. Fingon is the valiant son of Fingolfin. He resolves to heal the feud that had divided the Noldor. And so he goes to help out Maedhros, right? He goes to help out Maedhros.
Fingolfin does.
Right.
Yes.
And so he shows up and he's trying to kind of hack away and destroy the chain that's holding Maedhros up there. So
Maedhros is basically his nephew. Is that right?
Maedhros would be his cousin. Right?
Oh, okay, so Fingolfin is not one of Fëanor's brothers.
Fingolfin is his brother. Right? So, Fingon is the son of Fingolfin. Maedhros is the son of Fëanor. Therefore, they're twins. Right? Or they're cousins.
Fingon. So is Fingolfin a brother of Fëanor?
Yes. Yeah. Fingolfin is the brother of Fëanor.
Right, but Maedhros is Fëanor's son.
Right.
So Fingolfin should be his uncle.
Fingolfin is Maedhros' uncle.
That's what I was asking.
Fingon, who we're talking about now, is the son of Fingolfin, so he's the cousin of Maedhros.
Oh, so Fingon is the one that goes.
Right.
To help
Fingolfin
Maedhros.
is leading, and Fingolfin is like, forget you guys, you just did all this stuff to us. Fingon is like, sees all the strife going on between the brethren
I got them confused.
of the Noldor,
okay.
and he says, we need to do something about this.
Okay.
So he goes and undertakes this valiant act.
So it's his cousin.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Fingolfin's son that goes. Yes, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so it says, Angband, where is it? I skipped it a little too far. Yeah. Fingon found what he sought, for suddenly above him, far and faint, his song was taken up, and a voice answering called to him. Maedhros it was that sang amid his torment. But Fingon climbed to the foot of the precipice where his kinsman hung, and then could go no further. And he wept when he saw the cruel device of Morgoth. Maedhros, therefore, being in anguish without hope, begged Fingon to shoot him with his bow. And Fingon strung an arrow and bent his bow, and seeing no better hope, he cried to Manwë, saying, O king to whom all birds are dear, speed now this feathered shaft, and recall some pity for the Noldor in their need. His prayer was answered swiftly, from Manwë, to whom all birds are dear, and to whom they bring news upon Tanaquetil from Middle-earth, had sent forth the race of eagles, commanding them to dwell in the crags of the north, and to keep watch upon Morgoth. For Manwë still had pity for the exiled elves, and the eagles brought news of much that passed in those days to the sad ears of Manwë. Now even as Fingon bent his bow, there flew down from the high airs Thorondor, king of eagles, mightiest of all birds that have ever been, whose outstretched wings spanned 30 fathoms. And staying Fingon's hand, he took him up, and bore him to the face of the rock where Maedhros hung. For Fingon could not release the hell-wrought bond upon his wrist, nor sever it, nor draw it from the stone. Again, therefore, in his pain, Maedhros begged that he would slay him. But Fingon cut off his hand above the wrist, and Thorondor bore them back to Mithrim. So Maedhros doesn't lose his life, but he has his hand cut off. So he's now one-handed. And in time he's healed. But for the fire of life was hot within him, and his strength was of the ancient world, such as those possessed who were nurtured in Valinor. His body recovered from his torment and became hale, but the shadow of his pain was in his heart. And he lived to wield his sword with left hand more deadly than his right had been. The shadow of his pain was in his heart. So even though he eventually heals and moves on and lives for a long time, the shadow of that pain is still in his heart.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great line for how traumatic events affect us.
Yep.
I really like that line. Tolkien is just really good at that. Like, capturing how even though we can move on from traumatic things, they always remain with us.
And they change us.
They do. They change us, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty, a lot going on there. And what I wanted to show you was, here's the really cool picture that I found and have in my post for this on truemyths.org. It was so you should go and find, this is part of my Silmarillion Beginner's Guide. You should go and look up the post I have on the Return of the Noldor, that chapter, and the painting, drawing, whatever you call it, is of this scene of Thorondor, King of the Eagles, showing up to help Maedhros and Fingon.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really
I just really think, like, the eagle looks awesome.
Oh, totally awesome.
And I think he
it
really
being that big, but it must have been.
I think he really, like, captures the might of the eagles in Tolkien's world, like the glory and
the eagles show up in the Lord of the Rings as well.
Yeah.
So they're related, these eagles.
And it's they are they do the will of Manwë, right? Mm-hmm. So we see that they have not completely abandoned the Noldor. The Valar have not completely abandoned the Noldor. They come to help them here.
It's sort of a soft spot for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Just great scene for the healing of the division of the Noldor, so that they can come together once again. By this deed Fingon won great renown, and all the Noldor praised him, and the hatred between the houses of Fingolfin and Fëanor was assuaged. For Maedhros begged forgiveness for the desertion in Ahriman, and he waived his claim to kingship over all the Noldor, saying to Fingolfin, "If there lay no grievance between us, Lord, still the kingship would rightly come to you, the eldest here of the house of Finwë, and not the least wise." But to this his brothers did not all in their hearts agree.
So Maedhros would be the next in line for the...
Yes, Maedhros, because
his dad.
it passes down the eldest, the firstborn, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least in this scheme, it does.
Yeah.
So
he's basically offering the kingship to Fingolfin as the next brother.
Yeah.
Now is it because is it because Fingolfin was his half brother that it didn't pass down to him, or would it have passed down to Maedhros regardless, even if they had been full brothers?
It would have passed down to Maedhros regardless.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because it passes to it basically goes the eldest, right?
Okay. Got it.
And if the eldest has no other sons, then it passes over to another. Now, that may be some of why, so Maedhros has 6 brothers, and that, there may be some of the brothers that were like, wait a minute, should have come to one of us next instead of you, right? But he goes and gives it to Fingolfin. There may be some of that going on, but for whatever reason, they're like, dude, really?
Well, Maedhros is obviously doing it as like an olive branch.
Right? He is, and I think he's realized
gratefulness,
and of just saying like, yeah, my father kind of messed all this up,
He's trying to make it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things are starting to heal amongst the Noldor, and then I think let's pause there and take a quick commercial break, and we'll continue on with the Noldor interaction with the Sindar and with Thingol coming up next. All right?
Sounds good.
We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Hey, Tolkien Roadsters. What's shaking? Greta Carswell here, just getting my groove on to the Tolkien Haiku theme music. Man, that's an awesome song. You know what else is awesome? Feedback on the Tolkien Road on iTunes. Oh yeah, you heard me right. iTunes feedback is one of the best ways you can tell the world about your undying love for this podcast. Because it lets those knuckleheads at Apple know that the Tolkien Road is where it's at. I mean, come on. Why didn't they know that already? Am I right? So next time you're waiting in line to pick up some delicious tacos, surfing the World Wide Web, brushing up on a Tom Bombadil factoid, or keeping it real in whatever way you keep it real, pop on over to iTunes and let the human race know what you think about the Tolkien Road. We're all dying to know, for reals. Party on, y'all.
Welcome back. So, things are starting to get better between the Noldor because of Fingon's great act.
Right.
Okay.
Saving Maedhros.
Right. Maedhros.
Maedhros.
And now we have Fingolfin is now the High King of the Noldor with Fëanor off the scene.
Right.
And now we have to deal with how the Noldor interact with the Sindar and with Thingol. So it says, "Now Thingol welcomed not with a full heart the coming of so many princes in might out of the west, eager for new realms. And he would not open his kingdom, nor remove its girdle of enchantment. For wise with the wisdom of Melion, he trusted not that the restraint of Morgoth would endure. Alone of the princes of the Noldor, those of Finarfin's house were suffered to pass within the confines of Doriath, for they could claim close kinship with King Thingol himself, since their mother was Eärwen of Alqualande, Olwe's daughter."
This is confusing to me.
Yeah.
So Finarfin
Uh-huh.
is one of Fëanor's brothers,
Right.
along with Fingolfin.
Right.
Finarfin and Fingolfin have the same mother. Yes?
Right.
So why is only Finarfin allowed in? Because of...
Not Finarfin. Finarfin remained behind. He was married to Eärwen, who was Olwe's daughter, right? So his sons are descendant from both Noldor and Teleri, right?
Okay, what says...
And Elwë is the brother of Olwe, right? So Elwë is a Teleri, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
No.
Okay.
So, well, what it says is, alone of the princes of the Noldor, those of Finarfin's house were suffered to pass within the confines of Doriath.
Right.
So does that mean that they were allowed to come in?
Yes.
To Doriath.
Yes.
And that was because they could claim close kinship with King Thingol,
right,
who previously was Elwë, since their mother was Arwen.
Right.
So whose mother is Arwen?
Eärwen.
Eärwen.
So...
Finarfin's?
No. Finarfin is married to Eärwen. Finrod, Orodreth. So look back here.
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
So you go to the next paragraph.
Yes, okay.
Okay, and you can also see this if you turn to the second family tree.
Yeah.
A genealogy, and genealogy is toward the back. You'll see the descendants of Olwe and Elwë, and you'll see how this plays out. Galadriel is also the daughter of Finarfin and Eärwen, right?
Oh, okay. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Okay. So, Angband, son of Finarfin, was the first of the exiles to come to Maedhros. So he is one of the sons of Finarfin. As messenger of his brother Finrod, he spoke long with the king, telling him of the deeds of the Noldor in the north, and of their numbers, and of the ordering of their force. But being true and wise-hearted, and thinking all griefs now forgiven, he spoke no word concerning the kinslaying, nor of the manner of the exile of the Noldor and the oath of Fëanor.
Where's Finarfin?
Finarfin stayed behind.
Oh, okay, but his sons left.
His sons followed
it's
along.
all coming back to me now.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now his sons are allowed in because their mother is Arwen.
Right.
Who is related to Thingol, or is
basically Thingol's niece. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Got it.
I know it's tough putting all this together, right?
Yeah.
But once you got it, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yep.
I
can talk with the best of them.
It's like, man, why didn't Tolkien just say that Eärwen was Thingol's niece?
Right. Exactly. Like instead, he makes you go back. Like Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's play that game. Anyway.
6 degrees of Fëanor.
6 degrees of Fëanor. There you go. Wow, that could be a really fun rabbit trail if we chose to go down it. But we won't. And you're welcome, listeners. All right, so...
Thanks, Greta. Yeah, that's what they all just said to themselves.
They probably wanted to hear it, though. Maybe we should indulge them.
No.
No? Okay.
Maybe if we have special requests to do that, we'll do that some other time.
If you would like an entire episode focused on the 6 degrees of Fëanor, let us know. We will make it happen.
We could do 5 degrees of Fëanor, or 4 degrees of Fëanor, so we could keep the F thing going.
Oh, we could.
It wouldn't be quite as hard either.
It wouldn't be quite as hard.
Yeah.
Is it 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? It is 6. Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the number. I just guessed. All right. All right. Cool. So these peeps are hanging with Thingol, right?
Yeah, and so Angband endears himself to Thingol, and he doesn't even bother to mention the whole kinslaying thing. So you get the sense that this is not, when Thingol finds out about the kinslaying, he's not going to be happy about this.
Why does Thingol not already know about it?
Because he's way across the ocean, and they haven't had any contact until now, right? For the last several thousand years, right?
Okay.
So
Angband doesn't mention it.
Right.
He figures it's water.
Well, and he says, he kind of figures it's water under the bridge. And then Thingol says, "Thus shall you speak for me to those who sent you. In Hithlum the Noldor have leave to dwell, and in the highlands of Dorthonion, and in the lands east of Doriath that are empty and wild. But elsewhere there are many of my people, and I would not have them restrained of their freedom, still less ousted from their homes. Beware therefore how you princes of the west bear yourselves, for I am the Lord of Beleriand, and all who seek to dwell there shall hear my word. Into Doriath none shall come to abide, but only such as I call as guests, or who seek me in great need."
So he's setting some very clear boundaries here.
Yeah.
So you guys can stay here, you can set up camp here, there, or here, but not here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
nothing wrong with that.
But it also kind of makes sense, right? Because Thingol, he's one of the original elf fathers, right? He, you basically had the of the 3 elves of light, at least the 3 groups of the elves of light, the Calaquendi. You have the Vanyar, the Noldor, and the Teleri, and Thingol was one of the kings of the Teleri, right? And then Finwë was the king of the Noldor, and Ingve was the king of the Vanyar.
Right.
Ingve was king of the Vanyar. So the Vanyar remain behind, so they have no say over there. Over here, they remained in Aman. They have no say over in Beleriand. The Noldor, well, Finwë is dead, right? And then Thingol is here, and he's one, and this is the land he's claimed, right? So, so I kind of feel like Thingol has a point, even though he's being a little bit unwelcoming towards all of them, he still has a point.
Yeah, I completely agree.
He's showing his a bit of his hubris, I think, but he's got a point. He does have a rightful claim.
He does, and he's just looking out for his people.
Yeah. You'd think though, with having just fought against Morgoth himself, he would be a little bit more like, "Great to have you guys here. Let's work together."
Yeah, you can see where maybe he'd want to be more buddy with them.
Yeah. So the Noldor hear this message from Thingol via Angband, and Maedhros laughs, saying, "A king is he that can hold his own, or else his title is vain. Thingol does but grant us lands where his power does not run. Indeed, Doriath alone would be his realm this day, but for the coming of the Noldor. Therefore in Doriath let him reign, and be glad that he has the sons of Finwë for his neighbors, not the orcs of Morgoth that we found. Elsewhere it shall go as seems good to us." So Maedhros, as well as the rest of the Noldor, essentially say, well, that's funny that Thingol says that, because he's huddled away in his little protected land there, and he's telling us we can have all these, dwell in all these lands that he doesn't even bother to protect right now, and then Caranthir, who I believe is one of the sons of Fëanor, is a brother of Maedhros. He goes one step further, and yes, Caranthir. He goes one step further, and even says like, hey, you sons of Finarfin, don't think you can just go and have it both ways by running back and forth, they call him the Dark Elf, which is an insult to Thingol, right? Because Thingol has seen the light, right? But they call him the Dark Elf. Let not the sons of Finarfin run hither and thither with their tails to the Dark Elf in his caves, who made them our spokesman to deal with him. And though they be come indeed to Beleriand, let them not so swiftly forget that their father is a lord of the Noldor, though their mother be of other kin. Right? So there's some bad blood going on, and there's some jealousy that the sons of Finarfin have an in with Thingol. But the greater part of the Noldor of both followings, hearing his words, were troubled in heart, fearing the fell spirit of the sons of Fëanor that it seemed would ever be like to burst forth in rash word or violence. So, though the sons of the Noldor have healed somewhat, even so, they're still kind of the shadow of everything that's already happened, and they know that these sons of the Noldor of Fëanor inherited the temper of their father, right?
Yes.
Okay, so moving on. There's just a lot that happens in this chapter.
Yeah.
Fingolfin, 20 years of the sun had passed, so they've been there 20 years now. Fingolfin, king of the Noldor, declares a feast, and he invites everyone to come. Out of Doriath, however, out of Thingol's realm, only two come, Moblung and Daron, bearing greetings from the king. So Thingol himself doesn't come to the feast, but lots of other folks do. And they're hoping it's a feast of reuniting. And so they're hoping...
Sounds like none of Finarfin's people came, right? But two.
No, none of Thingol's people came, but those two. It doesn't say...
I thought Finarfin's people were... Oh, those were Thingol. Okay, I guess I don't know.
Finrod, so it says, thither came many of the chieftains and people of Fingolfin and Finrod. See, Finrod is...
I see, okay.
Finrod is in place of Finarfin now, right?
Right, okay.
Because he's his son, okay? He's his eldest son. So, and the sons of Fëanor, Maedhros and Maglor, with warriors of the eastern march. And there came also great numbers of the Grey Elves. So, lots of different elves come to this thing. Many counsels were taken in goodwill, and oaths were sworn of league and friendship. And it is told at this feast that the tongue of the Grey Elves was most spoken even by the Noldor, for they learned swiftly the speech of Beleriand, whereas the Sindar were slow to master the tongue of Valinor. So it seems like there's something in there that makes the tongue of Valinor more difficult to learn, whether it's just somehow elevated in a way that makes it inaccessible to those who haven't spent as much time in the light. I don't know, maybe if that's what's being implied. But
the Grey Elves are the Sindar, though.
Right.
Right, okay.
But the point is that the Sindar becomes the more common speech, because it's easier for the Noldor to learn that than it is for the Sindar to learn the Quenya of... I
see. Which is what the Noldor would have been speaking.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I think that's right. I'm bad on the language names.
So they are... so that's also a step in the right direction, that they're learning to communicate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they've agreed on a universal language.
Yes, that is a good thing.
It's a good sign of unity.
And I think the two languages were close, but not exactly the same. So there followed long years of peace, while their swords fenced Beleriand from the ruin of Morgoth, and his power was shut behind his gates. In those days there was joy beneath the new sun and moon, and all the land was glad, but still the shadow brooded in the north. And then, when 30 years had passed, Turgon, son of Fingolfin, left Nevrost, where he dwelt, and sought out Finrod his friend upon the island of Tol Sirion, and they journeyed southward along the river. So they go along the river, and they slept upon the banks in the summer stars. And Ulmo comes out and gives them dreams. Mm-hmm. And the trouble of the dreams remained after they awoke, but neither said aught to the other, for their memory was not clear, and each believed that Ulmo had sent a message to him alone. Yeah. Right? And basically, these two were inspired to create realms for themselves.
Like fortresses.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Finrod... wait, hold on. Finrod and Galadriel are the sisters of Thingol, their kinsmen in Doriath. Then Finrod was filled with wonder at the strength and majesty of Menegroth, its treasuries and armories and its many pillared halls of stone. And it came into his heart that he would build wide halls behind ever-guarded gates in some deep and secret place beneath the hills. Remember, Menegroth is the 1,000 caves. That's basically the fortress.
Right, that's Thingol's fortress, right?
Kind of castle, palace of Thingol.
Right.
Within the land of Doriath. Mm-hmm. That's called the 1,000 Caves. And then Finrod is inspired by it and basically wants to build something similar for himself. So he goes to the west and builds something similar with the help of the dwarves, and that's called Nargothrond.
Right.
Nargothrond.
So that is Finrod's.
That's Finrod's dwelling. That's right.
Okay.
Turgon doesn't act as quickly. Turgon doesn't turn around and do something quite as quickly as Finrod did. Okay. So we've got the founding of Nargothrond, and the dwarves help out in doing that. They create this thing called the Noglamir, the necklace of the dwarves, most renowned of their work in the elder days.
So instead of making a fortress, he's making necklaces.
Well, no, this is all part of the work that they're doing for Finrod in building Nargothrond.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was... Oh, I jumped ahead, my bad.
Yeah. You got something against making necklaces?
No, I just thought maybe it would, in war time, necklaces just don't seem like a necessity.
Well, this isn't wartime, is it?
Well, they're preparing for wartime, aren't they? I mean, isn't that basically why he wanted to build a fortress?
It's been like 20, 30, maybe even 50 years since
wasn't that the point of the dreams?
war.
Ulmo was telling them, get ready.
Yeah, but got to make some beautiful stuff here and there. Right?
Yeah, I guess. Where does it talk about... Oh, I see the necklace. Oh, yes. Okay, see, yeah, I had jumped ahead. Okay, my bad.
Right.
Alright, so it's Finrod who's making necklaces and fortresses.
Right.
And it sounds like he becomes pretty buddy-buddy with the dwarves.
Yeah, they get... They become as close as elves and dwarves can. Yeah. There's always sort of a tension between elves and dwarves, but yeah.
But it says that the Galadriel stayed behind.
Galadriel stays behind in Doriath, and she marries Celeborn, who's a kinsman of Thingol. And there's great love between them. She remained in the Hidden Kingdom and abode with Melion, and of her learned great lore and wisdom concerning Middle-earth, which is cool because she learns all this stuff from Melion, and she's living on into the third age of where we get into the Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Turgon remembered the city set upon a hill, Tirion the Fair, with its tower and tree, and he found not what he sought, but returned to Nevrost and sat in peace in Vinyamar by the shores of the sea. And in the next year, Ulmo himself appeared to him and bade him go forth again alone into the Vale of Sirion. And Turgon went forth, and by the guidance of Ulmo, he discovered the hidden vale of Tumladen in the encircling mountains, in the midst of which there was a hill of stone. Of this he spoke to none as yet, but returned once more to Nevrost, and there began in his secret councils to devise the plan of a city after the manner of Tirion upon Tuna, for which his heart yearned in exile.
So Ulmo basically leads him
right to this hidden kind of place. Yeah.
And so is he going to use that? Is he going to improve upon it to make his fortress, or
yeah?
What? Okay.
There's some plans for that particular piece of real estate. So, yeah, it'll become something.
He has plans for
it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
All right, so, you get this sense that all the Noldor are sort of getting settled in. They're all finding their little...
putting down roots.
Yeah. They're searching for that shady lane with the nice house and the white picket fence. Mm-hmm. 2-car garage.
We're getting married.
Right.
They're settling
down. Mm-hmm. Thinking that maybe all them bad days are behind them.
Maybe Morgoth just,
But, oh no.
decided not to bother them anymore about
No, you're about to enter upon
the
glorious battle.
The glorious
The
battle.
glorious battle, the third battle of Beleriand, known as the glorious battle.
It's called the glorious battle.
Now Morgoth, believing the report of his spies that the lords of the Noldor were wandering abroad with little thought of war, made trial of the strength and watchfulness of his enemies. Once more, with little warning, his might was stirred, and suddenly there was earthquakes in the north, and fire came from fissures in the earth, and the iron mountains vomited flame. And orcs poured forth across the plains of Ardgallan. Thence they thrust down the pass of Sirion in the west, and in the east they burst through the land of Moglor, and the gap between the hills of Maedhros and the outliers of the Blue Mountains. But Fingolfin and Maedhros were not sleeping, and while others sought out the scattered bands of orcs that strayed in Beleriand and did great evil, they came upon the main host from either side, as it was, assaulting Dorthonion. And they defeated the servants of Morgoth, and pursued them across Ardgallan, destroyed them utterly to the least and last, within sight of Angband's gates. That was the third great battle of the wars of Beleriand, and was named Dagor Oglareb, the glorious battle. It was a victory, yet a warning. Yeah,
I was going to say, so they won.
Yeah, they won.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to what's called the Siege of Angband, which is, again, this period of relative peace and stability, but there's also, it's a siege. It's not where they were just... So they're basically at the gates of Angband. These big armies are at the gates of Angband, like, just, kind of staying there so that the people of, or the orcs of Morgoth can't venture out farther.
They're basically, kind of blocking them in.
Right.
They're standing guard so that nobody can go in or out.
Right.
Okay. It says it lasted for 400 years.
The Siege of Angband? Yeah.
So, this may be just, a completely stupid question, but, what about supplies and stuff? Does Morgoth not need to eat? Or, how does he survive?
It's a good question. Remember, Morgoth is...
He's a Valar, I know. Or a fallen Valar.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not a... remember, he puts on a form, a physical form. Not out of necessity, but not because it's part of his nature, but to make him more appealing and those kind of things.
Right. Yeah. So he's not truly human. So he must not have the same needs.
Right. He's not really like the elves or men, and where he has physical needs. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So the Noldor basically posted watch. Someone was there guarding the gates of Angband for 400 years.
Right.
But it says they couldn't capture it.
But, another quick thought is that, really, if Morgoth, we're talking about Morgoth here, if he got hungry, he just ate an orc, right?
That's nasty.
Yeah.
So you're probably right.
Yeah.
But it says they could not capture it. They couldn't capture Angband.
Right.
And the war never wholly ceased in all that time of the siege. For Morgoth devised new evils, and ever and anon he would make trial of his enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So, they tried. They gave it their all, and like you said, there is relative peace, but, obviously Morgoth is still there, and he's still dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
what he desired above all was to sow fear and disunion among the Eldar.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
He's got his Silmaril, or he's got the Silmarils. So he's kind of happy there, and he just wants to cause as much grief and disunion among the Noldor as he can. When nearly 100 years had run since the glorious battle, Morgoth endeavored to take Fingolfin at unawares, for he knew of the vigilance of Maedhros. And he sent forth an army into the white north, and they turned west and again south. So he kind of goes up and west and then down instead of coming straight out of Angband.
Right.
To the firth of Dringist by the route that Fingolfin followed from the grinding ice. Thus they would enter into the realm of Hithlum from the west. But they were espied in time, and Fingon fell upon them among the hills at the head of the firth, and most of the orcs were driven into the sea. This was not reckoned among the great battles, for the orcs were not in great number, and only a part of the people of Hithlum fought there. But thereafter there was peace for many years, and no open assault from Angband, for Morgoth perceived now that the orcs unaided were no match for the Noldor, and he sought in his heart for new counsel. So another 100 years go by, and he sends out Glaurung, the first of the Uruloki, the fire drakes of the north.
So just real quick, this one that you just mentioned, where he sent the orcs out, that's not is that considered a battle?
No, it just said it's not considered a battle, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Just making sure you were paying attention. Right. That's all.
It's not considered one of the great battles of Beleriand, right?
Okay.
There's all these little like skirmishes and that kind of thing that go on, but there's 5 battles and then the final battle, right? That are the big deals.
Right, I'm sorry. And then after another 100.
And then finally Glaurung comes forth, and he is the first of the dragons.
So he's like an ancestor of Smaug.
Right.
Yeah.
He was yet young and scarce half grown, for long and slow is the life of the dragons. But the elves fled before him to arid Wethrin and Dorthonion in dismay, and he defiled the fields of Argallen. Then Fingon, prince of Hithlum, rode against him with archers on horseback, and hemmed him around with a ring of swift riders. And Glaurung could not endure their darts, being not yet come to his full armory. And he fled back to Angband, and came not forth again for many years. Fingon won great praise, and the Noldor rejoiced. For few foresaw the full meaning and threat of this new thing. But Morgoth was ill-pleased that Glaurung had disclosed himself over soon. And after his defeat there was the long peace of well nigh 200 years. In all that time there were but affrays on the marches, and all Beleriand prospered and grew rich. Behind the guard of their armies in the north, the Noldor built their dwellings and their towers, and many fair things they made in those days, and poems and histories and books of lore. In many parts, yeah,
that'll teach you to send out your baby dragon.
That's right.
Ready for war.
But the baby dragon escaped, right? So the baby dragon's probably gonna grow up.
That's really funny. That's like a funny mental picture to me.
Yeah. In many parts of the land, the Noldor and the Sindar became welded into one people, and spoke the same tongue, though this difference remained between them, that the Noldor had the greater power of mind and body, and were the mightier warriors and sages, and they built with stone, and loved the hill slopes and open lands. But the Sindar had the fairer voices, and were more skilled in music, save only Maedhros, son of Fëanor. And they loved the woods and the riversides, and some of the grey elves still wandered far and wide without settled abode, and they sang as they went. So, long chapter. A lot of stuff happened in it. But a lot of interesting stuff. So
it ends on a happy note.
It ends on a relatively happy note, although you definitely have the sense of foreboding that something will happen after this 400-year period is up. But right now we're in the Siege of Angband, and the peoples of the Sindar and the Noldor are kind of starting to get friendly, and even it sounds like intermarrying and all those sorts of things. So yeah, there's this sense that hey, maybe they can live in peace. Yeah, but
it's possible.
Yeah.
There's a lot to overcome still, though.
Yes, indeed.
A lot of hurt, a lot of what they probably see as betrayal, because it was, right? And that's really the issue here, is trust. What did you say? I mean, it's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Really, I feel like that's probably what they're trying to figure out at this point.
Yeah.
Like, how these people really change? Like, do they really have our backs, or are we gonna get burned again? Right?
Yeah. There's a lot of underlying potential for distrust and suspicion, and you know what the king says. We can't go on together with suspicious minds.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's such a great song.
Yeah. But he says it a little more like, we can't go on together with suspicious minds.
Suspicious minds.
Yeah.
And we can't build our dreams.
So that's the song of the better known. Elvis actually wrote that as it was subtitled "The Song of the Noldor and the Sindar."
I wish you had that queued up as like our outgoing music.
I should have that in here somewhere.
Well, no, it's going to take you too long to find it, and now it's not going to seem like
we're caught in
that
a
it
trap.
fits. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Well, what was your favorite passage?
Maybe you can edit it in. I like the part with the eagles.
The eagles?
Eagles.
Yeah.
Yep. I just thought it was beautiful. A beautiful sight. A beautiful portrayal of salvation. Even in the midst of all the bad stuff, right? The bad blood that Monway could have just been like, right?
Yeah.
You guys
done with
kind
you
of burnt
guys.
that bridge, right?
Yeah,
like we're
done
done.
with you guys.
But he doesn't. He's shows them grace. He's gracious to them and sends his eagles. So, yeah. Just that whole, I love that whole scene, just, with Fingon going to rescue, Maedhros and the eagles. I thought it was a very, very heroic bonding event.
Yeah.
On, several different levels. It kind of shows, the first signs of forgiveness.
Right.
Yeah.
Coolness.
How about you?
I'd probably go again with the Ulmo passage.
Where do you go with your water stuff?
I know. Well, yeah, I like the kind of mysterious, dreamy stuff. And I like how Ulmo is influencing. But yours was Manwë helping the Noldor. Mine's Ulmo helping them. Right.
Yep.
So, and if you think about kind of the primeval Valar, the three primary Valar, you have Manwë, the Lord of the Air, Ulmo, the Lord of the Waters, and Aule, the Lord of the Earth, basically. And Aule's help maybe comes in the form of the dwarves, right? Because he created the dwarves.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. And they helped
and also taught the Noldor how to make things, right? Be really good at making things.
Yep.
So it's interesting to note it's all coming together. This picture of the Valar, even though they aren't helping them in the most directive ways, they aren't going up to Morgoth themselves and challenging him.
Right.
They're still helping in different ways, right?
They're kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah, and it's almost like you start to wonder if the whole intent of this is so that they want to help, but the Noldor, it's almost like kind of a prodigal son thing where they're like, you've got to go do this, you've chosen this path, and so you have to carry this path through no matter what it costs you, and we're going to help you in certain ways, but we can't help you the full. You've chosen this path for yourself, and so you have to see it through yourself.
Price.
Exactly.
You have to suffer the consequences, but we'll be there for you.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of be your safety net when you need it.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. I like that. Yeah.
Anyway, just a thought.
Yeah, it's good. I dig it, yo.
All right. Well, anything else?
No, I think we wrung that chapter dry. I think we got it good.
We did.
Yeah.
Nailed it. So yeah, I think we're going to. So Thanksgiving's coming up, so we're going to take the coming week off, and we should be back on, I think, December 7th with our next episode.
Okay. Yep.
Which will be the next chapter, which
chapter
is
14.
Yeah, and I am planning at some point here in the future to put together some other stuff, hopefully some interviews and that kind of thing.
Oh, right. Yep.
The last several months for us have been extremely busy with other stuff, so we've just been trying to keep up with the reading, but want to kind of branch back out into some other ideas that we've had too. So
yeah, I think we should.
Next chapter 14 is of Beleriand and its realms. So again, another chapter where not a whole lot really happens. It just kind of lays out the different areas.
Stage setting.
Yeah, but worthwhile in the same way that the chapter of men and chapter of the sun and the moon and the hiding of Valinor was worthwhile. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thanks,
guys. We will talk to you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
December 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the meantime, have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, and if you're suffering from Tolkien Road withdrawal, there's 43 other episodes to go back and listen to. So, if you've listened to them all, then like virtual high five to you. You rock. If you have not listened to them all, you can go back and listen to one, maybe even two. And hey, by the way, if you have a whole hour of your life that you center around the Tolkien Road every week and you're missing an episode next week, maybe go online and leave us a rating on iTunes in that hour.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great use of time.
Anyway, just
I was also going to say, for those of you who are hosting or doing a lot of cooking for the Thanksgiving feast coming up, I think the Tolkien Road would be a great thing just to have on in the kitchen while you're doing your thing.
Yeah, it'd be like we're right there talking Tolkien.
It'll be like we're right there imparting our wisdom into your Thanksgiving.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in all seriousness, do have a happy Thanksgiving. And
that wasn't serious? You sounded pretty serious to me.
No, what you said wasn't serious.
What?
About... Anyway. You're right, that whole thing was serious.
As serious as we can be on this show.
I was totally serious. Listen to me and John talk while you cook your turkey.
I command you.
Do it.
Do it.
That was really bad grammar. I hope my dad doesn't hear that.
Yeah.
John and me, listen to us while you cook your turkey.
Yeah, that was good. Listen.
Gravy.
You listen to John and me.
I know, but first I said me and John. But you
Actually, no, it is me and John.
Oh, I thought it was John and me.
Only if you use John and I as a subject, that's when you do the reversal. As an object, though, you would say me and John. Right?
Oh.
You listen to me and John, right?
Okay, well, good.
I think
well, then I
that's
shouldn't
right.
have corrected myself.
I think that's right.
Well, you're the one with the master's in English, so I will go with what you say.
I am, but we didn't do a lot of study of grammar. We're supposed to kind of have that.
Okay. Well, why don't we just say it this way?
I always just relied on grammar check for that, so...
Listen to the Tolkien Road while you prepare your Thanksgiving feast.
Yes.
That would be lovely.
All right. Let's just shut up, okay?
Let's just stop talking.
Gosh.
I'm really excited about Thanksgiving, though. I'm sorry, I can't, I love any excuse to cook large varieties. Large quantities of food that I don't get to cook very often.
That's your thing.
It's my thing.
You're just going to be doing your thing.
I am. I'll be, neglecting everything else, but my recipes these next few days.
Right on.
So, yeah. Anyways.
As long as the food tastes good, I'm cool.
This is, the longest drawn out end to an episode ever.
I was ready to end it 5 minutes ago.
I bet people have already hit stop.
Mm-hmm. Well, they did. They would have missed the most awesome 5 minutes of this podcast ever.
Oh, dear. I hope that's not true. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah.
You all are the best. Audience Evs.
You guys are,
Mm-hmm.
You guys are pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet.
You gotta say.
Yeah.
All right.
And thanks again for the haikus, Josh.
Yes.
They were a special treat.
Thank you.
As always.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, Johnny. Are we ready to end this for reals?
We are ready to end it.
All right.
Ready to,
Are we ready to actually, sign off?
Well, I thought I was, but hold on.
Are we forgetting to say something? Oh, there it is. Oh, I love it. I can't walk out.
I really hope we don't get sued for putting this on.
Too much, baby.
It just seemed fitting.
That's why I'm singing along. You can't get sued.
Everybody,
I'm singing.
Elvis was a huge Tolkien fan. Everybody knows that.
Of course he was. Why wouldn't he be?
I mean, the name Elvis is practically a Tolkien name, for crying out
Well,
loud.
it's basically he took the word elf and turned it into Elvis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh, we just discovered this.
Wow.
We put this connection together. Can you believe it?
I'm so proud of us.
We are awesome.
We are totally
Everyone
awesome.
out there needs to go right now and give us 5 stars on iTunes and tell the world that we discovered this connection. That the king of rock and roll and the king of fantasy literature are of one mind.
One mind.
Or of one mind. The king of rock and roll learned everything he knew from J.R.R. Tolkien.
There it is.
Yeah. His mama loved J.R.R. Tolkien. That's why she named him Elvis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
All
he wrote the song for the Noldor, so...
All right, well, we better stop this before we actually do get sued. So,
okay. All right. Please don't sue us.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye-bye.
Please remember to check out truemyths.org for show notes and plenty of other Tolkien goodness. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? It's a great way to support the show and takes less than a minute. On the next episode, we continue our discussion of the Silmarillion with Chapter 14, of Beleriand and its realms, wherein we learn how the elves divvy up the lands of Beleriand during the long siege of Angband. Please tune in, and until next time, the road goes ever on.